Hello and welcome to the Monday, December 2nd, 2019 edition of Tesla Daily, unofficial Tesla podcast. Welcome to the last month of this decade. Pretty crazy. Today we've got some rumors for Gigafactory Shanghai, we have some news on Tesla's solar roof, and some interesting things to talk about with Autopilot. Tesla was one of the few stocks to finish in the green today, up 1.5% to $334.87. That compared to the Nasdaq down 1.1%. I'm sure at this point, I don't even really need to explain the macro environment. It's all trade related, and certainly this won't be the end of the oscillations that we see from perceptions of trade deals globally. A couple things to watch for tomorrow, Tuesday the 3rd, for the stock. First, again, is to just mention that the Unsworth versus Musk trial begins tomorrow. I don't know what day specifically Elon will be testifying in that trial, but regardless of the specific timing of that, with the trial beginning, I'm sure we'll start to see quite prevalent media coverage. That's probably a net negative. On the plus side, we do have an updated price target from Piper Jaffray. They've increased their price target on Tesla from $372 per share to $423 per share, citing impressive operating expense control as well as frugal capital spending, and then saying that Tesla is, quote, a must-own stock in this sector, end quote. So Piper Jaffray already had a price target at $372 above the current price of Tesla, so I'm not sure how much this will impact the market tomorrow, but certainly can't hurt. All right, getting into Gigafactory Shanghai, I wouldn't go so far as to call this news, but more so some rumors, but at this stage, I still think worth discussing. Both these things are coming from Kelvin Yang 7 on Twitter. He's been a resource for some news from China in the past. Hasn't always been perfect, but it has been helpful at times. So I'll just read the first tweet here verbatim, quote, rumors about Shanghai-made Model 3 getting cash subsidy have been floating around for a while. This time it came with a number, 24,700 yuan, or $3,500 US, possibly starting on 25th of December, end quote. Now again, grain of salt, even Kelvin acknowledges this as a rumor, but he says, quote, I got multiple reports from different places, but it's still a rumor, so discount as you need, end quote. I think good advice right there. Still, obviously worth keeping an eye on. If that were to be added, that would be a pretty significant incentive for made in China Model 3s. The other update that Kelvin had, which is maybe a little bit leaning less away from rumor, more towards news, but since I don't have any verification of this, I'd still file it as a rumor. But he says, quote, before delivery assistance, i.e. loan, installing wall connector, for Shanghai-made Model 3 has started this week, end quote. As far as I know, at this point, Tesla is still waiting for approval for sale from the government, but we continue to see step by step more progress towards that. This update, of course, being added to the recent news that we had previously discussed about made in China Model 3s making their way out to China stores. So good to see this continued progress. Next is some news on the solar roof. So this is coming from Clean Technica. They noticed that Tesla had posted some hiring events across the US for the service and energy installation category, specifically what they call Solar Glass Energy Hiring Event. There are 4 of these listed, one in the Bay Area, one in Los Angeles, and then one, interestingly, in Maryland and one in Massachusetts. So not just isolated to California. As we think about solar roof production, this should of course be a good sign for that. If Tesla has that production in place, someone's going to need to install them. And on the solar roof update call that Elon held shortly after the Q3 earnings call, he said that that would be Tesla's job initially. So we're seeing the signs of that now. There are so many things to look forward to for the Q4 earnings report, but this is one that I'm going to be super curious about, especially at that period of time. We'll be a few months removed from that solar roof update call, which, as a reminder, Elon said that they're trying to get north of 1,000 roofs per week as quickly as possible over the next several months. From that call, Elon said, quote, if you say probably several months from now, will we be able to do more than 1,000 roofs a week? I think the answer is yes. Then long term, we want to obviously do 10,000 units per week and then 20,000 units per week. I think the addressable market here is something on the order of 100 million houses worldwide, so we obviously want to ramp up as quickly as possible, end quote. Elon had also tweeted earlier in the year, so more out of date, that they were targeting 1,000 units per week of the solar roof by the end of the year. Even if that slips a bit, this just adds to the excitement that should be building for the second half of 2020. We're going to have the Model Y going, we're going to have Gigafactory Shanghai going, and we're going to have the solar roof going, which nobody is thinking about from a financial impact perspective. Next today, I just wanted to point out a couple interesting things that I had seen today on Autopilot. Both interesting videos. I'll put a link to both of these in the show notes. The first was on Smart Summon. There was a user that attempted to use it in a snow-covered parking lot, which I had not seen yet. And despite the snow covering, it did work, although there were some things that needed to be done to make that happen. He had to clear the sensors off before it would function, so obviously that sort of defeats the purpose of Smart Summon. And then it was also very slow. It was limited to 1 mile per hour. Generally, that limit is, I believe, 4 or 5 miles per hour. So not super functional at this point, but it was interesting to see nonetheless, and something that I had not seen yet. The next video was from a YouTuber, Dirty Tesla, and I would not recommend doing this, but he was doing a sort of hands-off test of Autopilot. Of course, he was there monitoring very closely, but specifically not intervening unless absolutely critical to see what Autopilot can handle. So again, video is in the show notes, but basically what happened is he's in a construction zone, and the construction barrels are gradually intersecting with the lane that he is driving in on Autopilot. So Autopilot responds to this, recognizes and responds by moving over as those barrels intersect, which is pretty cool by itself, but then the really interesting thing happens at sort of the end of that intersection. There's one construction barrel that sticks out quite a bit further than the rest and really would block the path that all of the other construction barrels were creating. That last barrel sort of sticks out into the new lane that the previous barrels were guiding towards. Without any intervention, Autopilot also recognizes this, and again reacts to it by swiftly steering further left than the center of the lane would indicate, nearly crossing over a dotted lane line, which would not be typical Autopilot behavior without an indication. It doesn't quite cross over, but it does get really close, and most importantly, it avoids the barrel. So again, I would not recommend doing this sort of testing yourself, but it was extremely interesting to see it captured, and a nice demonstration of Autopilot's capabilities. Again, links for both of those videos in the show notes. The other quick thing that I want to mention today, and some of you may have seen this on Twitter already, but I have started to publish the audio for the podcast on YouTube. Frankly, long overdue, but that can help with discoverability of the podcast. So if you are on YouTube, it wouldn't hurt to subscribe even if you don't end up listening to the audio on that channel. I know some people do also prefer that, so I'm excited to have that out there as an option. The link to that channel will be in the show notes, or of course you can probably just search Tesla Daily Podcast on YouTube. I'm sure it'll come up. That is it for today, though. As always, thank you for listening. I'd also encourage you to follow me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast. If you have questions or feedback, you can send those to me at tesladailypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to support the podcast, you can learn more about doing that at patreon.com/Tesla Daily Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Tuesday, December 3rd episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.